And he moved into a little cottage on the school campus of Our Lady of the Valley. It used to be a janitor's cottage. The custodian who lived on the ground. He's amazing. So just think of that image of empty hands. Here's the fifth one. This might seem harsh, but it just came to my mind as I was praying about it, so I put it. Be warned by the life of Judas Iscariot. Because we know how Judas betrayed Jesus in the end. But from John's gospel, we know how that betrayal began. You could say the first baby step. John told us that he was the keeper of the purse. He was the bursar. When people gave charitable donations to the apostles to be distributed to the poor, they gave that job to him. I would say he didn't have the charism for it either. But Jesus, for whatever reason, entrusted the money to him. And John said of Judas, he was a thief from the beginning. He never was one of us. So apparently it was a publicly well-known secret that Judas Iscariot was skimming from the alms. He was stealing. And there have been some saints who've argued if you have more than you need, you're stealing from the poor. I'm stealing from the poor. I'm stealing from others. That's a hard reality when we're in the first world, when we have an abundance. I mean, even the poorest of us, we have indoor plumbing, we have access to meals, we have social services. There are people out there who don't have even that, those basic things. So even if we just incrementally improve, we don't need to get there overnight, but we need to open our hands and let go of some stuff, I think. And think of giving alms as sharing properly as God intended us to share the resources of the earth. Number 6, almsgiving, even when it's done poorly due to lack of love, still functions as a partial cure for materialism and greed. So even if you don't hit a perfect 10, you don't hit a home run, not a lot of love went into it. You were very reluctant about it. I did it because people are watching me and I don't want to be the only one not throwing something in. It still helps. It still helps break ties with selfishness. Number 7, proper almsgiving should instill in us some level of gratitude. Why do I say this? Because part of the process of sharing, either from my surplus, if that's all I'm willing to do, or from my need, and which is causing me some hurt, either way, whatever level I'm at, one of the natural processes of that is to look at what I have to give away. Not just in what's in my checking account, but what do I have around the house that I don't need? What do I have talent-wise that I'm not sharing with people, that I'm not using to build up the body of Christ? What wasted time do I have that I could be using to help someone else? We don't need to beat ourselves up and make ourselves feel miserable, but we can all improve in these areas. And it's basically forcing us to look at what we have an abundance of. So seeing what is in the glass should lead us to gratitude, to say, my goodness, thank you, God, I have these things. Appreciate it.
I was told one time that I was very prideful, and I was told by a person whose thought process I respected. And I said, yeah, that I've done things and I've accomplished things of which I should take pride. And he says, yes, you should. But how do you think you had the ability to do those things that you're proud of? And I had to think about that for a minute and then realized that God had sat on my shoulder one time and said, Murray, I'm going to give you some abilities that maybe other people don't have, but I want you to take advantage of them.
Yes.
Use them properly.
It's a good insight. We all have something given to us by God. Nobody has nothing to share. Some people assuredly have more to share than others. They've been blessed with more talents, but God would not allow that no one has, or that someone has nothing to give. We all have, and none of us have everything, so that we lack nothing. That's part of God's wisdom, that we might become social creatures, that we might form a community, that we might be the body of Christ, and that we all have something to contribute. But it's tied, this idea of pride is attached a little bit, connected with St. Teresa's idea of humility. She said humility is truth. And distinguishing that from false humility, she said humility is not going around saying I'm a piece of garbage and I'm a nothing. That's a lie, she would say. That's a falsehood. But she said real humility is looking at your store of riches, in part, and saying, I have all these things, but I have them only because of God. He either gave them to me from my birth, from my conception, or He gave me abilities to earn those things in my life. So, if we keep in mind the source of those goods, that's actually humility, she would say. Okay, that brings us to what I just said, that as we think about time, talent, and treasure to be shared, it forces us to discern what our gifts are. So there's a discernment process in it. The ninth one, the lesson of the widow's mite, and St. Therese. Both of them teach us that more important than the size of the gift we give, or the quality of the gift we give, is the amount of love we put in that gift. If I give alms with no heart, that's paying taxes. If I fast with no heart, that's dieting. Fasting is putting love in it. Almsgiving is putting love in it. The greater the love I put in it, the greater it is from the perspective of eternity. Because that's what the eternal quality of that gift is. A little kid could pick dandelions out of my yard and then ring my doorbell, hand them to me all crumpled up, with a heart overflowing with love. And I would say, that didn't cost you any money. You picked a few weeds from my yard. But they just did something great and something eternal. That's mystical, is to say, wow. Last one, almsgiving also at times operates on the principle of justice in paying it forward. Since I don't think any of us here could say, I never needed someone's help in my life. Maybe you're very self-sufficient, maybe you're pretty independent, maybe you have, for the most part, bragging rights in that category, but even the most talented among us had to have had some down moments where we needed help from someone else. At a minimum, you had teachers in life who taught you things that you didn't know. And so there is a factor of justice in almsgiving that we're paying it forward. We're helping the next generation. We're passing the torch. So those are just a few helpful tips. As I said at the beginning, shotgun method here. I threw 100 ideas at you. If you can latch on to just 2 or 3, it might make all the difference in the world to your Lent. So we'll break there, and let's try again another 5-minute break if we can. I'll have my second talk be shorter because my goal, as loosely as I can, is to try and wrap up at noon. But we'll regather in about 5 minutes, 25 till, and talk about that desert temptation of Christ and what we can learn from the desert.